When do you know how to fly?
190 years old? You look great.
Push it!
So glad we took this job!
Welcome to the review discussion / finale of Alderaan Explosion, episode 3 for season 2, combining it all. If you're watching live or on YouTube, this is like a review discussion like we usually do, which is a spoiler filled where we're going to be breaking down Solo, Star Wars story. It is, in fact, also the 3rd episode of Alderaan Explosion, our podcast, which doesn't have videos. So they'll go up as an audio form, we'll go up as video. We just decided to do it live because, you know, trying things for the first time is good. Am I right, guys? Am I right? It's a good thing.
I'm scared.
Why?
I'm scared.
Told us not to talk.
You're not supposed to talk, and that you're allowed to talk when I start talking. Is the general.
Well, I was waiting for I was preemptively. I don't know. Hi.
Joining us.
Hi.
Joining us for this week's episode to talk about Solo, Qi'ra Marchant.
Hey, what's going on?
And Ashley Hobley.
Hi. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Okay, let's not go too weird. Ash, when did you see Solo?
Thursday, 12:50 p.m.
I saw it Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Kieran, when did you see Solo?
45 minutes ago.
I think the last time we saw this, I think I saw it twice before we discussed Last Jedi.
Yeah, definitely.
Or something like that. And yeah, so I've only seen it once. So kind of, there's a few things here that I would have really loved to have seen it twice. I wanted to go see it again today, but as we all know, if you follow along with any Explosion Network content, I have to check with Sam for a lot of my movie-going experiences, and I betrayed him and saw this in a completely different state. And I have to see it with him when I got back to my home state.
It doesn't count if you're in a different state.
Yeah, that's what they say. Am I right?
What was the quality of cinema in a different state? Was it better?
It was way better.
Yeah.
It was way better?
I had like reclining seats and all sorts of stuff. I don't know what was going on. It was way too.
We do it correctly in Queensland.
It was very thick and fancy, you know? Like it wasn't what I was used to at all. All right, so we are going to be talking about Solo, a Star Wars story, the second spin-off Star Wars movie. Going to be breaking it down. Once again, this is full spoilers. There's not like a 5-minute start section where we give spoiler-free thoughts. We're straight into spoilers here. So as soon as we begin, buckle in for the ride, everyone. We're just going to start with overall thoughts on the movie, one by one, your general impressions, that thing, and then we're kind of going to go through and break down some of the more specific characters, like what do you think of Han and Chewie, what do you think of Lando and L3, like the dynamics, and then break down some of the other moments, like the Kessel Run, the big cameo moment, and a bit of the Easter eggs and so things like that. But starting with you, Ash, what was your overall opinions and thoughts on the movie?
I thought it was a fun movie, fun experience. I enjoyed most of it. Yeah, pretty much all of it, I think. Yeah, and I would be excited to see a sequel if that were to happen. Yeah. If it makes enough money, which it probably will.
Where would you be rating it currently? Or was that going
probably like a 7.5.
Where would you be fitting it in your ranking of the Star Wars movies?
I would guess above the prequels, but maybe around a little bit lower than Rogue One.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of going to be the general consensus for where this falls in for this particular movie. Yeah. Kieran, what do you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. It was interesting with me having the couple days before I saw it, which I don't normally have, to get the general atmosphere of how everybody else in the internet or on our communities are feeling about it. So I had tempered expectations for the movie, but I ended up really enjoying it and I had a lot of fun. So it was good. It does fit around that, just below Rogue One, but better than all the prequels. Poor section for me. It had its issues. Like there were a couple problems I had with it, but other than that, it was generally a really good movie.
You went too hot on it going in.
Oh, I was excited for it, but I think having the having the couple days of people talking about it made me just pull myself back a little bit or temper some things, or maybe it helped me to what to expect. And then, as everybody does on the internet, they made it seem a lot worse than it actually was. And I ended up enjoying it even more because of that. It was a lot better than I was expecting from that kind of, vacuum that social media I'm in.
Yep, fair enough. I would say for me that I think the start of the movie has like a lot of pacing issues, like the first act where it kind of just jumps through around the couple of things. Like a lot of times, like here he's over here, now he's like join the Empire. We go through all that. We're jumping and jumping and jumping. And this is one of the things we talked about in episode 1 or 2 of Alderaan Explosion. Was I thought that's what was kind of going to happen, and it is what happened. It does make the movie a bit weird until they settle into that kind of like long spread of time. Once they like he meets Chewie and all that, and it's just like here's all one flow of events instead of just jumping ahead of time. But up until that, I was like, oh, it's a bit jumping over, a bit too much here. I thought the action scenes were great. It's pretty full on Star Wars movie as far as action scenes are, I suppose. Like it's a very popcorn flick as far as Star Wars movies go. It's pretty fast from start to finish. There's not a lot of downtime, I guess. And even though it's a fairly lengthy movie, like 2 hours 15, whatever it is, like 2 hours 10, like it's not exactly an hour and a half romp. But it is. I think that's what it's aiming to be. It's aiming to be the Star Wars movie that's the most like. It's just a fun Star Wars movie. It's not. They weren't shooting for something particularly too special, I suppose.
They weren't shooting for the stars.
Oh, got 'em.
Oh gosh. Oh no.
I think the story like resonates more with any of the like extended universe material or the animated show, simply because it's more of a small scale. It's telling a story that isn't about the fate of the galaxy or the big, huge characters that need to, because we already know what happens, Han, blah blah blah. Like we're not following. He doesn't need to save someone that's going to save the galaxy or anything like that, which is more reminiscent of these extended universe type books or comics or some Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars episodes where they have random characters and stuff like that. And compared to even Rogue One being the first spin-off, obviously that was, compared to this, a huge story. Like that is a story about
it was still directly related to the original trilogy. And I think now that you've made that comparison, I do like that. Thinking of this is a lot more like the Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that. That having that thought process to it, I think actually improves my thought process towards the movie. It fits in well with that kind of thing, with certain elements of things that happened during the movie. Yeah, that definitely fits in with that kind of point.
Because even if you're looking at the last animated series, Rebels, the main story of Star Wars Rebels wasn't about them saving the galaxy. It was about them trying to save one planet, and that's what they did by the end of that show's run. But like season to season, most of their stories was like, we're trying to, like, they were so small, minuscule things they were trying to do. It wasn't about like the fate of the galaxy. And then there's so many books where it's just, here's this offshoot tale that's like small and contained. So I feel like this movie is going to be more enjoyable for people, like off the bat, more enjoyable for people used to that small scale Star Wars stuff. But if you're used to like the huge end of the world type Star Wars stuff, it might be like, oh, I kind of prefer it when we're fighting Siths and stuff about the fate of the galaxy being in the hands of someone. I think that this movie has a lot of fan service and a lot of Easter eggs, but does it a lot better than Rogue One also. Because none of them were completely shoved in your face, I felt. Rogue One had a few too many shoved in the face, even if you want to count that as like CGI Leia or CGI Moff Tarkin or
there was no annoying C-3PO and R2-D2 scene.
Or that scene, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there was none of that.
I think they did the Easter eggs and fan servicey stuff in this movie a lot better, where it wasn't so noticeable and up in your face, which I appreciated. And the one thing I take away the most when I left the movie theater was, I initially, when this movie was announced, was not excited for it at all. I was like, oh really? That's where like Solo, like I don't, Han Solo's fine as a character. I'm not excited, blah, 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 blah. as the movie got closer and I started thinking more about it, I was kind of like, I'm kind of a bit more looking forward to this, especially once we got our looks at Lando and all that sort of stuff. That got me way more excited. And we started doing the podcast, got me more excited, just talking about the movie. More material I saw, the more I was interested in it. But the general thing is, like, from start, I was like, don't want to see this movie, don't care for it. I left, that was fun. That was really good. And it kind of improves my trust for Lucasfilm going forward with these spin-off movies, because I'm going, well, you know, you proved me wrong. Like, maybe I should just put a bit more faith in their hands for what they're going to do, because they proved me wrong.
That James Mangold Boba Fett film.
Boba Fett movie, which, exactly, and we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end because I want to tie it into something, but that is a good example where it is like, my initial reaction to that is, why? Like, fucking why? I don't want... And then I'm like, well, I didn't want this either, and I enjoyed it, so...
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to just get angry about something, I suppose, but...
I think it helps that during the course of this movie, there was a point in the, like, maybe the 3/4 mark where I literally just said to myself, fuck, I love Star Wars. Like, I just enjoy spending time in this universe. I enjoy spending time in these worlds that... I think, you know, even if the movie wasn't, you know, isn't top class, it's enjoyable to be, because we're, you know, it's more Star Wars.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with me. Like, I can watch... I really don't like episode 2, and I have so many problems with it, and I complain. But at the same time, the part in that movie that I really love so much is just because it's Star Wars, and I can just enjoy it. Even though the parts I hate so much, it's just like, oh, it's Star Wars. I just really like Star Wars, so whatever. Yeah. This movie could have been like a 5, and I still would have walked out going like, as a movie... shit, but fuck, but Star Wars, like, man, like pew pew pew, like, it's enjoyable. So before we jump into some of the broad breakdown things, I will go over our predictions that we dropped in episode 2 to see how terribly we all did, and we all did do great. We will start with mine. I predicted Boba Fett would come along with a cameo with Jabba the Hutt. We have no Jabba the Hutt. We get his mentioned. Not gonna count
not even like directly, really, like, except for like the Hutt cartel was mentioned at one point.
The Hutt cartel's mentioned, and
that's where he's going. That's where Han's
can. But they alluded to that, but they never were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see Jabba the Hutt about this mission on this."
And then, of course, by the end of the movie,
too on the nose.
By the end of the movie, it's like, oh, there's a guy on Tatooine who's got a job. But they don't say Jabba. So I'm not giving myself any points to that. And obviously Boba Fett was not mentioned once. No. But I was expecting them to have a scene with Jabba in it, and like Boba would be there. So it was like kind of like... With no Jabba, I don't see him bumping into Boba, so that's fine. And then I thought Sans Lothario would have a hint or an occlusion or something in the movie. No, not fucking...
Nope.
Jedi relics would be shown or be collected by someone at some point in this movie.
Nope. Except, were the crystals kyber crystals?
No, I don't believe so.
You don't think so? They were just gems?
Yeah, I think they're just gems. Technically, at this stage in the world, we do see a lightsaber, which to anyone at this current period is considered a collectible, you know?
Except for that person, except for the person that has it. It's not a collectible. It's just,
I'm not giving myself a point. Is it
technically a relic?
Yeah, a 0.5.
Is it a relic? If you've always owned it, is it really a relic?
Yeah, like antique teapots that
grandmas use. I've had this Nokia.
How old does something have to be before it becomes a relic?
Yeah. All right, I'll give myself 0 points. All right, so moving on to Ashes. Qi'ra betrays Han. Have a point.
Yeah. Take it.
Have a point. You got there. Train sequence.
Did she though?
Yes,
she did.
Yes, I mean she definitely.
She bailed on him. She like, leave my ship. I'm going.
I think that's a bit different to betraying him, though.
No, that's a betrayal.
No, it's a betrayal. You have your point. Shut up and take your point.
Shut up and take it. Stop trying to lose your point.
We can talk about this a bit later.
The second thing, train sequences. In the train sequence, Han saves Chewie. And that's where he saves his life. No. I mean, he saves him, but it's not like what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
C-3PO and R2-D2 won't be in this movie. Have your shitty point.
That's the shittest point in the world.
Have your shitty point, yeah.
That's a terrible prediction. Oh, gosh.
Kieran.
Oh, awesome prediction.
Nobody that matters dies. Which I'm still like... I mean, to who?
I mean, the main villain died. His mentor died.
Yeah. A bunch of the characters that we met at the start of the movie died.
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
Han joining up with the Empire, we see either the Emperor or Vader.
Fuck. There was a hologram of an important character. I went with the wrong ones.
You certainly did. And your last one was the craziest thing that you ever said, even considering our E3 predictions. Naboo will show up.
Shit.
Which I still can't remember your reasoning for, but sure.
Yeah,
No point.
No, I went with it. Just like, fuck it. Whatever.
So Ash wins our prediction.
Good job, Ash.
Yeah,
Good
Good
job,
job,
Ash.
Ash. You've won
With
the
the
prediction.
shittest predictions ever.
Yep. 1 point.
They were pretty much obvious.
All
I
right.
could have shoehorned them in.
Could have.
Could
All
have
right,
happened.
let's jump into the first talking point. So we're going to talk about the big two first, Han and Chewie. I would say that Alden Ehrenreich, after everything, all things considered, I'm fine with his performance.
I'm
as
fine with
Han.
his performance. He had some good moments, but then there was also moments where I was like, I don't know. Like for me, when he was on the battlefield, talking to when he first met his mentor and stuff, Beckett. I don't know why. I literally just saw the movie. How am I forgetting names? When he runs into Beckett there and the portion after it, I'm like, wait, does Han really not know that they're not Imperial soldiers? Or is he just playing along? Or
He's very young
He was
and
playing
naive.
along.
I was like, but the thing is, but he didn't see. I don't know. It was just I was confused.
That seems like a problem with the script rather than like
Possibly.
his
Okay.
his
Yeah. No.
particular
Okay. Let's go with the
acting.
script. That's fine. Yep.
But I would say overall, he has enough moments and lines delivered, not all the time consistently, but there are several moments where he would say a line that I'm like, that's Han. And then there would be periods of time where it's very much his own version of it, which is what I wanted, because I don't want someone doing an impression of Harrison playing Han Solo, because that would just be fucking stupid. But there was those certain times where he would say a line or do something, and I'm like, that's Han. And that was enough for me to bring the whole package together. And I'm glad he made it something his own, and it wasn't just a repeat or someone trying to be something. And I'm quite happy with that. At first, of course, it is kind of weird to watch, because you are used to this role being played by a certain someone, and a certain someone who has an X factor. You know, Harrison Ford is Harrison Ford. No one else is like Harrison Ford. So
exactly.
there was no way to kind of fill that. And it is just that overcoming that initial hump, and then just being like, yeah, he's got the charm, he's got the swagger down or whatever. I quite enjoyed him. Chewie was great. I thought they gave Chewie a lot of character, which at first, when I remember the initial reviews came out, and I was seeing people be like, Chewie's great in the movie. I'm like, how could Chewie be great in the movie? Like,
How could Chewie be great?
You know, but like Chewie's Chewie.
Yeah.
Like what can he do? But they do so much just with his physical performance and like his slight things. Like I would laugh at times, like you do little head movements or like nods or that type of stuff. And the moment they met and how they make them meet was fantastic. I absolutely loved how the way they went with the meeting.
Smart.
Which was completely different to how they met in Legends material, or how most people was guessing they would meet, you know, of him rescuing him from some kind of slave encampment or something along those lines. He does rescue him, but it's more of a, I help you, you help me situation, not just Han saving Chewie. And that whole scene was great. Him getting to hear a human's, him doing up that to speak to Chewie was great. And then the scene where they were chained up together, and then he went to run that way, and like got pulled along and all that. That was all fantastic.
I loved for me, it was the little things he did in the scene where Han was first flying the Millennium Falcon. Just like you could tell he was just like, all right, come on, just let me co-pilot. Come on, I can do this. Fuck it, fine, I'll sit back here. And then just little things he did where you could see he was just like, all right, just let me. Fuck it, I'll just do it myself then.
Yeah.
The only thing to join it up to Chewie, but it's not directly Chewie. Did the costume design for the other Wookiees
That looked weird.
looked weird and off, and
The faces, I don't know whether they just didn't have enough fur or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that was done on purpose. So
Just to make them look different, but
yeah,
But
I don't know.
I don't know. It just looked really weird, and I don't know. Maybe it's how it was shot because it took a while for there to be an actual like clear shot of the other Wookiees. So yeah, I don't know, but they were just weird.
yep. Ash, you got anything on?
No,
Han and
Chewie was
Chewie?
great. Do you think they're gonna just leave the life debt thing out, and Chewie's just gonna stick around by choice, or
No,
I don't think they can because it's mentioned in the original trilogy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, kinda. It's. I feel like that they could still that could still be a thing, and everyone just assumed that would happen in this movie. But I really appreciate and because you can get to the life debt thing later, and I would much prefer the story being they're already friends, and he owes his friend a life debt, kind of like he's just like really appreciative, rather than like some random guy that he doesn't really like and feels obligated to hang around because. The thing I loved about the relationship and the way they took it in this movie is that it's Chewie deciding to stay. And there's that moment where Han saves Lando and Chewie's like, the other Wookiees kind of like, come with me, we're going over here, this is what we're doing, rebellion, come with me. And Chewie watches Han go out to save Lando and he kind of has that, this is the moment where he's kind of like, oh, he's actually a good guy and I'll hang around to help him. I'm kind of growing attached to this guy. I'm kind of liking him as a friend. And that's why he chooses to hang around. So I much appreciate the story where it's like he's there because he wants to be, not because he feels obligated to be or something.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, it's like if they do the life debt thing later where he actually saves his life and Chewie hangs around. Well, it doesn't even hang around there. It's just like that's a thing. Like he's hanging around because he wants to be, but at the same time, he owes Han his life, kind of. So I like this better. I like this a lot better.
Yeah.
Let's break down the best all because this movie is really just here are all Han Solo's greatest moments. It's like the best of hits.
Kieran was right. They chucked in everything we know about Han Solo into this first movie.
Yeah, and I was like,
which I think works now that I think about it because he's achieved all his greatest things at the start of his career, and then it's all downhill from here.
Which makes sense to that character because it's like everything from this movie. It's like I've got a good feeling about this, and it's like everything great in his life happens in this movie, and then every sequel after this, they can just have him get worse and worse, get in debt to the Hutts, just fuck up that shit, like just fail this, shut up, like just fuck up over and over and over. Yeah. So, but I mean, this film, it is pretty much, you know, all those things you've heard Han Solo do. Well. Here they all are. Here
they all happen in a couple of days.
In a couple of days, pretty much. The one thing that I didn't think was, I never even considered to be a thing that would be in this movie, or I even considered was a thing, and I'll start with this one, is his name being, like his name given to him. I thought that was an odd thing to go for. Like, I suppose it makes sense because he's like an orphan kid or, you know, growing up on the streets, blah, 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 blah. But even hearing that, my brain was never like, oh, so he mustn't have a last name.
But he said he's got a dad and a mother.
Like he talked about his dad as if he had like spent enough time to have like a stored memory of his dad working at the ship construction.
Yeah, so then it's like, does he?
So he must have one, and he just.
So does he have a last name, and he just chose not to use it, or whatever.
Yeah. Most likely.
Yeah, but I felt that was the one thing where I'm like, that's a bit too corny, like having the Imperial officer give him the, oh, you got no family? Oh, Solo. Because that's the name of the movie, and that's your last name that everyone knows you by. So let's have that be a thing that's the time.
Do you reckon he does that often? He just gives out random last names.
I can tell you, Han Solo's got a bunch of family.
You are
out there.
Jerry Single.
No, he just gives everybody the last name Solo.
Yeah.
Just like if he's just, you know, eventually he'll stick to somebody important. That guy could be like, you know, if he survived the whole rebellion, he could have been like, fucking name that guy, that general there. Fucking named him.
Yeah, General Solo. I knew him when he was a young lad. Didn't even have a last name. Now look at him.
Yeah. Now look at him. His last name's
trying to kill
famous.
Him.
Yeah.
Gave birth to one of the most angry, powerful people in the last 100+ years.
Shit.
Great. Good job.
Wait, did you say give birth?
Yeah, Han gave birth. I was going to leave it. I was going to leave it as Dylan's welcome back present to podcasting, but no, Dylan in fact said Han gave birth to him.
Well, Can't all be perfect.
Well, you don't know how it works in Star Wars.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good point. The other thing is the dice, of course, which I thought was a bit too heavy. Like they were really like
thing in the original trilogy.
Yeah. Okay, so the dice are
Okay.
shown for a hot couple seconds. You can see them in A New Hope. They are there. The dice
Okay.
are there. Then the dice were brought back as a prominent story piece, of course, in The Last Jedi, which is what most people know them from.
Yeah.
And they, of course, these movies productions crossing over in time, so it works out that they're like trying to make them a big deal in Last Jedi, so they're a big deal in Solo, so they're a big deal for Han Solo as a character, blah 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 blah. But yes, they are in fact from A New Hope. They didn't just make this up. They've grabbed this tiny thing from A New Hope and been like this. But the thing for these dice that everyone assumed was that they were the dice that Han used to win the Millennium Falcon with, and that's the reason he hung them up in the Falcon, because they were like his winning golden dice. We now know from this movie, of course, that that's not what they are. They are these dice that him and Qi'ra kind of pass back for their back and forth between when he gives them to her and then she gives them back later, 3 years later.
The luck thing.
Just a luck thing, and then he of course holds on to them. They're in the Falcon until the day he dies, of course. And
I'm sure there's some sort of more personal thing. I think maybe it's like a family heirloom or something.
Could be. Maybe we'll find out more in sequels if we get them. So that's
I'm pretty sure we're going to get them.
And then of course we get the Kessel Run, the famed Kessel Run, which he first mentions in.
I thought it'd be faster.
Yeah, I thought that thing went for a lot longer than I thought it was going for. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow, Parasec's long.
Well, what do you think of that the scene in general, like the whole Kessel Run?
I was a
sequence?
little disappointed by it.
Really, I
A
loved
little.
it.
You loved it. I was a little
loved it.
disappointed by it. Because I think it means looking at it from a non-fanboy point of view, it just means that this thing that Han builds up all of his life, or this this thing that follows Han wherever he goes. Oh, he did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Is not really all down to Han as it seems to be. Like there was a lot went into it for it to happen.
But
so
isn't that a hard thing to do?
It's a hard thing to do, but then
No,
also...
isn't that a Han thing to do?
Oh, a Han thing to do?
Build up
Yeah.
something that...
I
Yeah,
mean,
no, that's exactly the point of it.
There is the great moment at the end where, like, he says to Chewie, "It's 12 if we round down." Like, but there's always been this confusion about the parsecs, because, like, when he says the line in A New Hope, "Oh, that's the because we're running 12 parsecs," everyone's like, parsecs is a unit of, like, it's a distance type thing, And he says it in that movie as if it was a measurement of speed or time. Like, and that's how he says, "I did it in 12 parsecs." This movie does clarify that it was in fact a distance thing, which makes sense. So that is good clarification to have. It is like the distance between when they were originally looking at the Kessel Run and when they get blocked off by the Star Destroyer, it's 20 parsecs, like through that usual space that everyone, that's the route that everyone takes, that is 20 parsecs. It's like looking down the road and being like, it is 20 kilometers down the road type thing. That's how far it's going to take you, and then you can jump to hyperspace and you get to wherever the fuck you're trying to go. And he does the distance. It's like cutting through all the houses, from across your houses to get to the highway faster, basically. I suppose is the easiest analogy.
Like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like it would take 20 kilometers to get from here to the highway if I'm trying to get there, or if I cut through all these houses and giant monsters and asteroids and dark cloud space things and black holes, it would take 12 kilometers. Is the thing.
Yeah.
There's also the great moment where, so they head towards a thing, and like Lando says about going into the mall, which is like the giant monster thing. There's a line he also says in Empire or Jedi, I can't remember which one it is now. But like Lando says it in one of those movies, like, "What are you going to do? You're going to the mall?" Which it's like a cool tie-in. Like I like when they tie in lines like that, so they have a bit more meaning when you hear them again in the original trilogy. But I love that sequence. I thought it was great. It was a very dark It was a space chase scene that we kind of haven't seen. It was, I described it after I left the theater, especially up to one point. It was like watching Fast and Furious in a Star Wars movie.
Hit the nitrous.
Yes, that scene was. I was like, I'm watching Fast and Furious in a fucking Star Wars movie, and I love both these things because it gets that moment where they inject the colixium or whatever it is into the fucking thing, and they have that scene like they do in Fast and Furious where it like goes inside the like it pops off in the back and like goes off like nitros. Fantastic.
Speaking about that fuel, I enjoyed how in like its open, no, it wasn't the crawl, but in like the opening lines that flashed up in like the at the start of the movie, it had like hyperfuel or hyperspace fuel in like capital letters. So I was like, oh, okay, so that's an important thing for this movie.
Yeah,
is this hyperspace fuel? So cool,
very important.
very important.
And there was also the moment where he put the freaking things out, like did a drift along a fucking asteroid to spin rocks into. I love when people got upset in The Last Jedi about being unrealistic because they dropped bombs and people were like, you can't drop bombs in space, there's no gravity. And everyone that works for Lucasfilm's like, this movie has laser swords. You know, like, it's not a realistic
So we're going to put a spaceship that drifts.
Wouldn't the space... Well, obviously in the spaceships, they've got some sort of gravity stuff to keep people on the floor.
There is a gravity field outside ships, like they explain in Star Wars. Most of them have like some sort of gravity field for X amount of distance outside the ship.
Yeah, so that would pull the bombs down, right?
Whatever you want. I mean, honestly, I watch Star Wars. Star Wars to me is a fantasy film. It is not a sci-fi film. And if you look at it as a sci-fi film, you're looking at them wrong. They are like sci-fi fantasy, 90% fantasy. Like that is Star Wars. But yeah, I love it.
Space setting.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I really enjoyed the custom run, and I thought it was great to watch. I love that whole action sequence, the back and forth, the banter, Lando like being shot, and the part when they're like running in there, and it's like I can't remember who was using the cape. Who was using it? Qi'ra.
Qi'ra.
Not the cape. It works so much better.
It was a custom piece.
It was a custom cape. Shout out to capes.
Shout out to capes.
Fucking capes.
And talking about Lando, the other big Han moment that we get in this movie, of course, is how he wins the Millennium Falcon. Did it go down exactly how everyone thought it would? I don't know. I quite liked how it went down because he, of course, loses the first match because Lando cheats. And then the second time, there was that really great moment at the end of the movie where they walk into the new bar or whatever you want to call it where Lando is, and Han and Chewie walk up to him like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, which is kind of like how their interaction in Empire. Pretty much the same. It's like, hey, and then they hug and they're like, oh, yeah, it's fine. And then he notices he has the extra card down there, takes the card, and then he wins the Falcon. Which then, if you go find a GIF or watch the minute of footage from Empire when they're talking about the Falcon, when Han says, I won that thing fair and square. Like the way he says it, like fair and square, has a lot more meaning. And like it's moments like that where it's like, okay, I can rewatch the whole original trilogy and I'm going to get like these cool little moments that work in so well now. What do we think about how Han won the Falcon?
I enjoyed how they punked us out. That like he won for a second, everybody was cheering, everybody was smiling, and then
no,
that's on it. But then as soon as that no moment, I was like, okay, so that's how the movie ends. The movie ends with them playing another game and Han winning. Cool. I'm happy with that. That's fine. Why
did he get tricked the second time to do it though?
What do you mean?
Why did he put the Millennium Falcon up the second time? You know,
because
that's Lando. That's Lando just like being like, I did this last time, I can do it again.
Do it again.
Cocky.
Keep being arrogant.
He's very cocky.
Think about it.
I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of Lando in this movie.
Yeah, we didn't think there was going to be much when we talked about it previously, and there was a lot more. I thought,
No, there was a lot. Donald Glover, I'm waiting for you to be bad at something. You just do it all, and I hate you, but I love you at the same time. I thought it was really good. The only thing I don't know, maybe it's going to take me a rewatch, and I need to pay more attention to it. But him going to running over to save L3 and stuff, I was a bit like, oh, okay, I didn't realize this was this relationship like this.
They fucked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They fucked. She says it without
says
saying
it.
it because it's a because it is a not a kids movie, but I mean this is a like it's not an R-rated movie, but
It's a-
she gets asked if you can do that, and she's like, "Yep." She
Right.
didn't specifically say that they did it.
I thought she alluded.
They
but
did
I
it.
didn't think she actually was like, "Yep."
You read between the lines. They fucked.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Ash, did you?
Yeah, Han was great.
Han
I
was
don't know
great.
what else to say.
Han was
Okay.
great, or Lando was great.
No, we're still talking about Han's best of
yeah.
ones.
Han, Lando,
Han-
they're all good.
Right. Okay. Sure.
I enjoyed him saying "I hate you," and then I never want to see you again.
That was a good delivery.
Yeah.
I hate you. He's like, I know. And then we
Yeah.
get which is a good tie into the I love you, I know.
I love you again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that works out really well. Overall, yeah, I like the Kessel Run. I liked how he won the Falcon. I'm happy with these two like big moments, how they handled them in the movie. How he met Chewie, happy with that. So it's like the three big Han moments that we got in this movie, I guess I'm quite happy with, which is good. None of them were fucked up. Let's move on to the next slide. Let's talk about Beckett and his gang, which is basically the big bunch of new characters we got this movie. I would say I enjoyed Woody. It was Woody Harrelson
Woody's
being
good.
Woody Harrelson. I like Woody Harrelson. He kind of fit into this space cowboy, smuggler, whatever bad guy kind of role really well. It was
Did
suited
the
for
pistol
him.
whip thing.
Did the pistol whip thing. That was all great. The rest of them though, Thandie Newton, underused. Don't know why she was like.
I don't know why they. I was shocked when. Not shocked, but I was like, "Oh shit, they're dead." Okay. Shit.
This whole thing about them doing the train heist and then them all dying doesn't have the payoff and the emotional weight that I think they wanted it to, because we simply haven't had enough time with these characters to have any emotional weight to that scene at all. Like, I'm like, I was enjoying Rio. He's funny. Jon Favreau, great guy. Enjoying his voice here. This character's kind of funny. When he died, I'm still just like, oh, okay. Like, I'm emotionally attached. Thandie Newton dies, and then, like, you're supposed to have an emotional attachment to Beckett, because that's his girlfriend, and, like, he screams out whatever. I'm like, am I supposed to feel bad for him? Because I haven't particularly grown attached to any of these characters. Yeah, I barely got to know anyone here.
Had only really just seen that they were in that kind of relationship, like the scene beforehand. Like,
But we should have seen it coming, because she said they were going to, after this deal, they're going to retire.
Yeah,
we're going to go to that planet.
That
She was
is a
gonna get the power
giveaway.
cords or
That is
whatever.
a giveaway.
Should have known.
So yeah, I felt like she was wasted. And like whatever, them all dying.
They
fine.
just serve their purpose.
They
I wouldn't
serve their
say wasted.
purpose. I would say that Thandie Newton as an actress was underused in this particular role, though, because like we check out Bevanworld, also on Twitch if you're watching, and YouTube if you're watching, and on podcast services if you're listening. That she's on Westworld, and she's fantastic in that show, like fucking fantastic in that show, and she's really really great. And I just felt like she was wasted in this role. It could have been anyone.
More.
It could have been anyone.
Yeah.
And if you're going to bring her in, I needed more of that character, and I would have actually preferred the movie just to be like 2.5 hours long and just got more time with them.
Yep.
Maybe, or like even 10 minutes longer. Maybe even 10 minutes longer, just with some sort of back and forth with them. Just a little bit time with those characters, so the emotional payoff of their deaths could have played out better. But Beckett overall, I did enjoy his character. Yeah. And I liked how he wasn't, as we were kind of talking about in the first 2 episodes of Alderaan, because we kind of knew he was going to be some sort of mentor to Han, but his mentorship wasn't like the typical like good guy mentorship. It was just Han watching a person, learning from a person, kind of just this. It wasn't like he was actually being mentored, like quote unquote mentored. It was just someone he learnt from, I guess, and like introduced him to the criminal underworld more than the actual mentoring. Did we all like Tobias Beckett?
Yeah, no, it was Woody did a great job. I liked how his reaction with Emilia Clarke's character with Qi'ra, because he knew exactly what was going to happen there, but he never once was just like, Han, you can't do this, or Han, they tried to explain it. He was just like, hey, come on, man. Like, you can see what's going to happen, right? Like he didn't like go out of his way as some movies would be to like, pull them apart or separate them or whatever. He was just, he understood, but at the same time, he was still warning Han about it.
Mm-hmm. Ash?
Yeah, it's Woody Harrelson. What else can you ask for?
Yeah, it was great.
He-
Liked it.
yeah, and it went the way we all sort of expected it to go as well.
Yeah.
With
Oh,
him.
and yeah, it is worth pointing out then that Han shot first.
Han did
Yeah.
shot. I loved that so much.
It's like
I
a
was
slight
like,
little thing, yeah.
yeah, it was just a small thing, or the small thing like with when they were talking about the mining companies with Lando, you know,
And Lando's
yeah.
like, fuck, I hate land
Hate-
mining.
hate them.
I hate
Hate-
mining colonies.
Yeah.
Okay, well, guess what? A couple of years from now, pal,
Yeah.
gonna be over there trying to run one. How's that sound for fun?
Yeah.
All right, talking about Lando, let's move on. Talk about Lando and L3. As we kind of covered a little bit before, there's not much to say about Donald Glover other than perfect. Like you couldn't, as far as I'm concerned, perfect. It wasn't like he was pretending. He wasn't trying to be Lando. He was Lando.
He was
You know,
Lando, just
like-
even like down to the voice. It was just the voice was like spot on. It was really good.
It just, even though it's like costume, the way he walked, the way he talked, the way he just interacted with everyone, the back and forth between him and Han, the way like the first time he meets Qi'ra, he's like, "You look beautiful," like kiss the hand, like all that. It's Lando. It is absolutely Lando, and he was great. You want to give me a Lando spin-off movie? I won't be complaining about that one.
Yeah.
No.
I will take that. What do we all think of Lando?
It's great. What else can you say?
Yeah.
Ask Ashley a question.
It's great. What can you say?
It's the,
I'll get in first,
the
yeah.
topic. What else can you say? No, I think Donald Glover was perfect casting, as I've already said. Even just down to the little things like the moment where Han's trying to bluff his way through with the pirates and say, "Hey, we've got 30 men down there in that ship who are going to come up here and surround you," and just instantly takes off.
Yep.
Just instantly just
Fuck
bails.
this
It's just,
shit, boy.
Yep, no.
Which
Boy,
makes sense because we know exactly what Lando's like in the future with, oh, fuck, yeah, Darth Vader, have him.
Yeah. And just, you know, he's out, you can tell he's got this side to him that even though he means well a lot of times, he's still looking out for himself. Like stuff like when he did see Qi'ra, he did the smoothing first, and he's like, I'm all cleared up right with Crimson. Like I'm all good.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I don't know about that I haven't done. Like that was very much a self-protective way to his dealing. So yeah, no, he was fantastic.
So there are all those moments, but then of course there's the L3 stuff, which we'll talk about in a sec, because I really, really loved this L337. Great. Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Great as that character. This was a droid character. See, it was getting to the stage when they first introduced this. Like, okay, so we're just going to have another... Every spin-off movie, of course, every Star Wars movie needs a new droid because they need new toys to sell, blah, 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 blah. At a certain point, are they going to start feeling boring or whatever? I've seen people online, because of course they have, describing this one as SJW, the robot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was bound to happen, but it's all the people like, Disney ruined Star Wars, and this is the perfect example of why they've literally got an SGW fucking robot in the movie. Oh my god, that's hilarious. But I thought it was great, the idea of having a like knowing aware robot that like she builds upon herself or whatever, and like her whole thing is out for robot rights and trying to, well, how would you feel? Like, it's like when Lando was like, what do you want? She's like, equal rights. I thought that was great. Like that was absolutely fantastic. So what do we all think of L3?
Yeah, I could see how she would be divisive, but it was good. I think it's like the first female droid in the movies, isn't it? I can think of.
Like a
female-ish.
character, voiced droid, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good match to Alan Tudyk's droid from Rogue One as well. Sort of similar-ish.
Like smart-ass sassy, but like not the same, like completely different, but still got like a lot of personality. Yeah.
Yeah, like I really enjoyed L3. Like really, what more is there to say about it?
Yeah.
Fuck off. Please. You're not making it easy for me if you both do it. But yeah, so the part where I did not expect this droid to die, it made sense. Or I'm mental blanking on Alan Tudyk's one to die, but
Yeah.
the name of that one, that made sense for that one to die.
Letters and numbers it was.
Yes, letters
Some
and numbers.
combination.
It made sense for that one to die in
Yeah.
that movie. I was not going into this expecting L3 to die, but at the same stage, I knew eventually they'd have to explain where she
She
was.
lives on in the ship now.
Yes, well, that is
She's
true.
always been a part of that ship.
Which, if you're a Doctor Who fan, it was just reminding me. The whole thing was reminding me of the Doctor's Wife episode, where they're just like, "Oh, this is fucking the TARDIS speaks to you now. Like, it's got a personality and all this sort of stuff." Which, if you go, so I've seen online people point out that like there is that scene where C-3PO is talking to the Millennium Falcon, and it's like, "Oh, it's saying this. Like, if we do this, it's like, oh, so that all has another meaning now." It is literally. It's not like him just being like, "Oh, the ship's talking to me." It is literally talking to. There's also, I saw someone tweeting today from the novelization of The Last Jedi. There's a whole bunch of paragraphs where it's like, the Millennium Falcon says this because Blah like feels like this. Like, they've got lines in it, and people are like going like, "Oh, these all have another meaning now." Because I was tweeting at the author like, was you aware of this when he was writing? And he's like, maybe not you. Like,
That's cool.
but it's a nice thing to like have a go and like live on for the Falcon, I guess. And just it is one of those other things, little cool thing you can do in this movie that will of course make whenever you watch any of the older films, you can rewatch some of those scenes a bit differently. And even in like going into episode 9, they could have a throwaway line now, you know, like where you could be, "Oh, it's because L3 is like attached to part of the system. Oh, that's cool." Like just little moments like that. But overall, I thought L3 was a really interesting, cool droid. I would have preferred her to live on, but it is, once again, it's like by the time we get to Lando in episode 5, he doesn't have L3. So
No.
Yeah.
it's like at some point,
Yeah.
she had to go.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred her not to have died. I just thought they wouldn't kill her and they'll just write her off in like a book or something along the lines like, "Oh, she left," or that, like as going with the way characters is like she ran off to join the resistance for the.
I thought
fucking
he
robot.
was, with the way it was going, I thought, you know, it was going to come to the point where they're about to leave with the Millennium Falcon, and Lando would be like, "L3, come on," and she would be like, "No, I'm staying here to lead this rebellion."
Yeah, I enjoyed the rebellion of all the robots. It was
That was
fun.
pretty funny. Them stamping on the machines or whatever, like basically like, "Yeah, fuck you." Yeah, I thought that was really great. So she was good. I enjoyed that, and the back and forth with Lando was good too. And I did buy that point, like where Lando runs out to save her, because that is like we were talking about before. Lando's out for number 1, but he does have that side, at which he kind of proves like he's out for himself in episode 5, number 1, but then of course he does go save Han. He does come fight for the second Death Star. You know, like he does have that side to him that isn't all about himself, but he does have those moments where it's just like, "Oh, all about me, fuck everything else, like I'll do whatever it is to protect number 1." But then he does have those moments where if he cares about something enough or has time to think about it, he makes the right and the good choice. And he is deep down, like Han, who doesn't appear like it from the outside, actually a good person if given the right push in the direction. So it made sense. And they basically set up the scene before with L3's like, he's in love with me. He just, like, I could tell, like, the heart monitor, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, robot-human relations. What can you say? What more can you... As some would say on this podcast, what more can you say about that?
Exactly. What more can you say?
All right, moving on to the next part. So let's talk about Dryden, Voss, and qi'ra, who have paired together because they are the bad guys, really. Dryden is the quote-unquote bad guy, but I feel like the movie didn't really have much. It's like, he's there, he does the job. Paul Bettany does a decent enough performance it's menacing enough that you're like, oh yeah, that guy could, like, fuck you up, because he does put on a menacing performance. He has all the scars on his face. It's like, oh yeah, he's kind of scary. Like, I wouldn't want to fuck up with him. And that's pretty much all the purpose he serves. It's not like a bad guy that we're like, oh, Hound's gonna have a big showdown with this guy at the end, it's gonna be an epic battle. It's just like a villain to push the story through, like be this looming thing in the background, I guess. And qi'ra, I thought was really, really good. I thought Emilia Clarke was a lot better in this movie than I thought she was going to be going in, honestly. And she is a character that I am interested in going forward, obviously, with the sequels or whatever they choose to do with that character, because I think she's just going to get worse. Like, she's headed on a dark path now, more or less, and that's where they leave her, of course, heading off. But at the same time, if they want to give me a book or a comic or something like that, with information with that 3-year period where she basically gets to Crimson Dawn and what happens after she loses Han at the gateway there, I'm interested in that also, because she was obviously a good person there and she was blah 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 blah, and then in 3 years she's got 180'd into this Crimson Dawn fuckhole. So what do we all think of Dryden and Qi'ra? Also, note, I did get it right when I was talking about Qi'ra.
Yeah, no, you did. And I smiled when they first said Qi'ra. I was like, oh, okay, good job, Dylan. I actually really like Dryden because I thought from the trailers or from what we've seen, he was just going to be an out-and-out, sinister, bad dude. Like, he was just going to be, I'm dark and evil and menacing and rah. But there was some layer to this character of, wanting that almost like psychoticness of just having like, it is a party after all, and just him relaxing. Or you can tell he's not doing it because he's the boss. You can tell he's doing it because he's just scared of whoever is his boss. That was quickly established and led to the ultimate payoff of that. But I really liked his character, and for it, he didn't get much to do. He didn't have that much. He was just kind of, a reason behind Han going through all these adventures. But I like Paul Bettany as an actor anyway, so it did the job. As for Qi'ra, I love Emilia Clarke in most things she does, so she was fantastic. Even, just the small scene of her trying on one of Lando's capes in his wardrobe made me just think of Dylan.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll take it. I'm Emilia Clarke in my dreams too,
Yeah. Do you reckon Han gave Lando all his capes when he won the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah, he's like, I don't need
everything.
Or he just kept... Nah, because he would have sold them all for like billions of credits by the sounds of it if they're worth that much. So surely Lando took them all out. Let's go with that theory.
But yeah, she totally betrayed him, Ash. I don't know how you see otherwise.
What do you think of these people, Ash?
Yeah, they were good. Dryden was an incredible threat. I thought he was pretty menacing in all the scene. Like that, obviously that first meeting, when they were in that first meeting, he felt pretty. Thought he was going to try and kill him in that scene. Obviously, he didn't.
Well, he would have.
He would have.
If they didn't come up with the plan.
They set him up pretty well, murdering that guy in the first.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
no, he was menacing. I agree, he was menacing. I don't think he was like a terribly interesting bad guy, but he was menacing enough.
Yeah.
To be that. And what do you think of Qi'ra?
Yeah, she was really good. I enjoyed pretty much everything. It was kind of weird watching Khan kiss another woman, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was okay that it wasn't like it was an established romance for Han from like the start onwards. Like it wasn't like they met or that they rekindled a friendship and that turned into a relationship. It was just these two had grown up together. They've bonded. Well, not grown up, but they've come through this this slums of Corellian together, and they've bonded together because of that. I think for me that made it not so weird. It was just it was pretty normal, for two people that have been through such a thing to bond in such a way.
Also, I enjoyed the thing with the rock with Lady Proxima at the start of the movie.
I like the design of that creature. I still like that whole first sequence. Like even the dialogue, I kind of didn't want to spend much time talking about because I thought it was just like off. Yeah. Like even the first conversation Han and Qi'ra have there, it just like the dialogue seemed really weird and stilted. It was like, oh Han, we've got this now. We can get out of here. Like it's like. Okay, it's like when you can tell a plot's just giving you information really fucking fast because we need to get moving, and it did seem like natural dialogue, so I was kind of like, okay. But the Lady Proxima thing was like, okay, it's the Borgullet of this movie, sure, let's move on to the next.
I think that was one of the first moments where I was like, this is Han, was when he made the clicking sound with his mouth of pretending the rock was a thermal detonator.
Yeah.
I was like...
And she's like, did you just make that with your mouth? No.
Yeah.
No.
It's a rock.
And then Qi'ra was like, "Is that really your plan or whatever?" Like, no, this is. Yeah, that was cool. That was once again, that's like a thing that's like he's not Harrison Ford, but that is a Han. Like it was like, yeah, it's my plan. It's fine. I think that
Also, I think betrayal is when you screw somebody over, whereas this was more of a letdown.
Well, I mean,
A letdown.
Yeah.
Did Han just
I'll
want
follow you.
the
She
love
didn't follow
of his
him.
life currently being like, I'll follow you, and then she flies off in the enemy bad guy spaceship, and Han's just sitting there with Chewie, and Han's just like, I'm really let down.
does
Yeah.
it count as a betrayal if next movie he's got Crimson Dawn like assassins after him because of her?
Yeah, then it's a betrayal.
But right now, on the scale of like betrayals and stuff, this is just a letdown moment.
Yeah.
I think it's betrayal.
I just
Yep,
haven't been
it's
betrayed
flat out
enough.
betrayal.
You can have 0.5 of point and you still win. So
Yeah. So
it's fine. Whichever way you want to look at it. I think the other thing interesting about Qi'ra is that duality, like, because the whole time she's kind of playing Han, but not. You know, like
Yes. Yeah.
it's that in the background she like has that dark side light side pull, but not like a dark side light side. It's like by the end of the movie she lets Han go, but at the same time makes the bad move. You know, like she doesn't run off to be with him, but she lets him live.
Yeah.
She was still kind of playing him along the entire time, and she knew she had more information that she wasn't giving Han because she is actually attached to that Crimson Dawn lifestyle. And obviously by the end of the movie, because a lot of the movie, you're like, is she like, has she been sold to them? Like, is she a slave? Is that what we're looking at here? What is the exact situation? Like, does Dryden Voss own her? What do we? You don't really know what the
very
relationship
handsy.
is. Yeah, but then by the end of the movie, you understand that she's there, she wants to be, and she wants to rise to power within that Crimson Dawn. Like, she's not.
is Crimson Dawn a new thing, or has that been
Yeah, no,
explored
it's a
somewhere
new thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a new thing.
I find it interesting that a lot of characters that make bad decisions or are quote unquote evil, when you look at it from their perspective, they don't see themselves as doing a bad thing or being evil. They see it and justify it, where Qi'ra understands that she's doing something bad. Like, she's doing something. And that's why, you know, if she thought it was the good thing or she thought it was the right thing, I'm pretty sure she would have been like, Han, come and join me in this thing. Like, come and be by my side for this. Whereas she pushed Han away because she knew Han was the good guy. Even if he didn't admit it, Han was the good guy.
That's what he told him.
Yeah,
He
but
just flat out said, "You're the good guy."
yeah, no, you didn't. Ash, Jesus,
Ash.
Ash.
I'm just saying, you're
Ash,
quoting the movie directly.
No, I am quoting the movie directly. That's what I'm saying. She said that to him, and because of her belief that he's the good guy, she understood that she couldn't ask him to be part of this life. That she couldn't bring him this way. That she would have to go it alone.
I mean, it's because this one. I mean, like, why I want to know more about it, because it's, you can understand how she gets to this point. She's brought up, you know, slums, that life, blah blah blah, and then we don't know what happened in that 3-year time, like how she got to where she is. She's obviously been hardened or gone down some sort of path, which makes it interesting. But at the same time, she does seem to be actually, you could say she loves Han. I don't know if you could or you couldn't, but I'd say that she does have some sort of love for Han. She
put a
carries
fair
the
bet.
dice for that time, so
She does love Han. I think Han is the last bit of her life that ties her back to how she originally was.
Yeah.
Like Han is that good side of her, or that hope she had. The smile, as directly quoting from the movie. I'm not just making that up. Ashley. The smile. So she was holding on to that, and by letting Han walk away, she was accepting that she'd given it up.
yep. Yeah, so I would like to see more of her past and present going forward. Dryden Voss, I don't need to see. I'm not going to see more of. I don't need to see less, you know, any of his past. I don't really care. He served his purpose for this movie, but then we had obviously the big reveal of Mole, which is what we're going to move into now. Before we talk about it, I would like to play a little bit of a video though for people, because there's so many people on the internet, and we'll talk about this in a second when we come back. I've been loving the, what the fuck, like he died, like from all those sort of people. So let's just take a quick look at this for a second.
I am surprised You could have forgotten me so easily after I killed your master and you left me for dead on Naboo.
It is you.
You may have forgotten me, but I will never forget you. You cannot imagine the depths I would go to stay alive, fueled by my singular hatred for you.
That may be so, but I defeated you before, and I can defeat you again.
Don't be so certain.
Yeah, so Mole came back to life years ago, people. I know it's a thing. It's crazy. You only knew this if you've been watching the animated series. So there's so much to cover.
Because a colleague of mine at work had already been, and he was talking to me about the
So I'm gonna
movie.
see it as soon as possible.
I know. He was talking to me about the movie as if it happened before the prequels, and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah. No, I was expecting, maybe like Qui-Gon Jinn or some of the Jedi to show up." And I was like, "No, this happens before New Hope." He's like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, this happens just before New Hope because the Empire's around." He goes, "What happened to Darth Maul then?" And I went, and I was like, "Oh, right." Sure.
It's great. I've seen people like that online as well. I've read other stories like that of people just being like, I think I read on Reddit today, someone said that in their cinema, as soon as the movie ended, they heard the person next to them be like, I thought this movie like took place after the prequels. Like people are confused, and I'm enjoying it. And I also think it says something about Lucasfilm and how they're kind of taking the property and like the interconnectivity of the universe and doing it a lot better than how Marvel's handling their bigger world. Because so you've got Mole, who as far if the general movie going audience have only watched the Star Wars movies, they think he's dead. The general Star Wars fans, and I hate using the word casuals, although sometimes you need it's like, your casual Star Wars fans, the people that just watch the movies. That's not meant to be offensive, it just means that's just how it is. They don't know Mole's back alive. The only way you know Mole's back alive is if you've been watching the animated series, reading the extended universe material, Rebels, anything like that. So you have to be diving off outside the numbered movies, those things. And if we look at what Marvel does with their extended universe stuff is they're like, oh yeah, it's all one big connected universe. Like Daredevil's there, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D's all there, but they refuse to tie it into the actual movies because they don't want to confuse the people. Like they're like, oh no, like it's connected, but it's not connected. Like it's connected, but we're not willing to make that jump.
It's a one-way connection. The movies affect the TV shows, and the TV shows don't affect the movies.
Yes.
That's where this one both ways.
So I think this is a really brave and decision, and one that I will applaud Lucasfilm for doing, because I think it just proves that they are like, it's both ways, as you just said. Like it was one way, but this is a two-way street where you've had all this stuff happening over here. And I also think it says they have a lot more faith in the general movie going audience than a lot of other movie studios would generally have, because they were like, hey, people are going to have problems with this, people are going to be confused by this, people might not understand this if they haven't been watching Clone Wars, but we're going to have faith that people will walk out the cinema and turn to their like big Star Wars nerdy friends and be like, can you explain this? Or go to YouTube and like look up a YouTube video, or just go straight to Google and be like, how is it like Wikipedia or something like that? Just have a bit more faith in the audience. So what was our initial reactions to seeing Mole? Because mine was pretty much, anyone else like get excited? Because
my initial reaction was Dylan's going to go nuts for this.
Yes.
I liked it. As I said, I was waiting for it to happen most of the movie. Was it a different actor that played Maul?
No,
or was
it was Ray Park, voiced by Sam Witwer.
Yeah, so
okay.
the person who voiced him in Phantom Menace is different as Sam Witwer. Although, as far as I'm concerned, Sam Witwer is Maul, because Sam Witwer has been voicing Maul through all of Clone Wars and Rebels. So he's Maul to me. Ray Park is the same guy who played him on set and did the martial arts stuff for Phantom Menace, though.
Yeah, no, because it was more, for me, it was more like the facial was little bit different, or it might just be it was
He's older, that's why.
How it's
they
done,
made him,
and he's older.
He's meant to look older.
Yeah. Because I know in the Rebels series he is his face is a lot more like withdrawn because of the crap he's been through. So he's obviously much better off in his current state than he is in Rebels. I really liked it. I don't know why he felt the need to turn his lightsaber on.
I think it was a threatening to. It was supposed to be a threaten. So the other theory or thing I was thinking about that makes a lot more sense once the Maul reveal happened is you look back at Dryden Voss and his face scars, and to me now that is scars he's got from Maul for fucking up.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time this is just fan theory. Anytime Dryden's fucked up, Maul's scarred his face. Like cut down it because they are very like straight line, like kind of saber.
Yes.
Like here's a slight thing.
It also sort of explains the weapons that he's got as well, maybe.
Yeah, explains that kind of stuff a lot better. So yeah, I think it was story wise they have him grab the lightsaber and ignite it because he's supposed to be threatening Qi'ra, like because she's saying, oh, like he's fucked off, but Maul knows that she's lying. Like he knows that she killed him.
Yes,
that means that she has some kind of something inside her that he's like, well, that's good, but that could also be bad. Like as long as you understand that I'm in charge here, then what you just did is fine. So I'm going to threaten you. At the same time, I feel like movie wise, him using the Force, grabbing the lightsaber, lighting up is people. So just in case people didn't get it, were like staring at him going, I don't recognize this guy. Like, is he someone? He lights up lightsaber. It's going to help people go, it's Darth. Well, clarification, he's Maul, he's no longer Darth, but they're like people going, it's Darth Maul, like so it works both ways, I feel.
And
go.
I don't know. I can't remember what I was going to say. That's fine. This is what I was going to say. So Star Wars, I've always said, Star Wars teaches people lessons. Star Wars is generally a series of people doing what they're told not to do. Side thing, don't have an apprentice or like student because if you're evil, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to kill you.
Yeah,
like just seems to be the way it is.
Yeah,
just students don't do that.
You hear that first here, teachers.
So I was talking to my dad last night, and I was saying, I was like, all right, be careful of spoilers because there's actually a big moment in Han Solo, and he's not gonna he will wait for it to come out in Blu-ray, but I'm like, just be careful if you can. I mean, he's not on Facebook or Twitter, so he has it easier, but still news headlines and whatever. I saw one on IGN yesterday that was by that Phantom Menace character that's in Solo, and it's like, if you read that, it's like, Phantom Menace, like who the fuck else is that? Like, like it just narrows it down too easy in the headline. And he was like, oh, it'll be a cameo from Jabba the Hutt. I'm like, it's not someone you could name. I'm like, you could name 1,000 characters to me right now, and you will not get it. You will not get who it is. So just be careful. And to clarify,
1,000 different characters.
Probably not. Neither could I, probably. But it's over exaggeration. So to clarify how the whole timeline thing works, so it all makes sense. We're not going to cover the whole Maul thing. You can Google it. Pretty much, he survives. If you haven't watched Clone Wars, he gets cut in half, he lands in the thing, he grows spider legs, he gets saved, it's a whole thing. He goes to his home planet Dathomir, there's evil magic, he gets robot legs. It's a whole thing. It is a whole thing. Skip ahead time from that, and let's just cover from, like, there's a time period where we last see him in the Clone Wars, and then there's the time when he shows up in Rebels. So there is a huge gap of time between when we last see him at the end of the Clone Wars and when he shows up in Rebels, which is about a year, no, it'll be like less than a year before episode 4 takes place. So there's a huge gap of time we've got to work with. So towards the end of the Clone Wars, he started up a group called the Shadow Collective, which was basically a crime organization, which was with a bunch of Mandalorians and such. And he was trying to he got this whole army, and he was trying to take over the planet, but his whole grand scheme of plan the whole time is power, rule places, kill Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like that's the 3 ticks he wants to tick off, basically. And this was a story we never actually got to see, but they've done, because it was when Clone Wars was cancelled. It was one of the episodes they were going to do in the last season, and they've put up like sketches. They did it like Star Wars Celebration. They showed like sketches, and on stage they basically talked through what the story of the episode was going to be, sketch by sketch, and it is considered canon because it's like part of the Clone Wars, and it's what they say would have happened to Ahsoka and whoever else because she's involved in the episode. So it's right before, how episode 3 starts with Obi-Wan and Anakin in the ships, and they're off to rescue the Chancellor. So just before that, they're on the planet. They're on the planet. I'm double checking. I'm getting it right before I fuck it up. Yeah, so they're on Malachor, and Darth Maul's there, Obi-Wan's there, Anakin's there. They're all fighting. Blah 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 blah. Ahsoka shows up. She's like, "Oh, cool. I've come here to help." Rex is there, clone person. Cool. Then they get the call. Chancellor's been kidnapped. Anakin, Obi-Wan, they're like, "Ahsoka, here's your lightsabers back. Here, go. Help. Take down Darth Maul. We're going to jump in our ships and take off." That's where episode 3 starts. So while they're flying up there to help Chancellor, Ahsoka's down here. She battles Darth Maul. She wins, traps him in the ray shield. Oh, that's cool. He's all trapped. Everything's going to be fine. Order 66 happens. He manages to escape. After this, we don't know what happens to him. That is like the full stop for that time period. So he disappears off the face of the earth at Order 66 time, just like a lot of people do. And then the time period where we see him show up in Rebels is when he's crash landed on a Sith planet, and he's been trapped there, he explains, for years. He's been trapped there for years without a way off. So there is many, many, many years for them to basically do whatever they want for this character. And at the time of the Clone Wars, he was still after Obi-Wan. He was still part of this whole crime organization thing, Shadow Collective. So it would make sense that if he escapes, the Shadow Collective evolves into Crimson Dawn, whatever exactly this is, and he's off running on this planet trying to still find a way to kill Obi-Wan, I suppose. Like, that's his main goal. It's an interesting choice. It's cool, but it all actually does make perfect sense, character-wise. And I'm really glad that they're tying it all in to the extended universe back and forth. Where do we think we're going to see him show up, though? Do you think it's just they're going to show him in the, like, they're going to say it's a Solo 2 thing? Or do you think it's just like a setup for something else?
I think it's a Solo 2 thing.
Yeah.
I think they've put that as the setup for then if they decide to do another one, this will be where it's going.
Fair?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, maybe he goes to Jabba the Hutt and he has some sort of job that coincides with something Crimson Dawn's trying to do.
Here's my one problem.
Yeah.
You can't have Han Solo meet Maul.
No, you can't have him fight.
We can't even have him meet because it's like Han Solo episode 4, Force is a bunch of bullshit. What is this lightsaber? You know, like, it's just all it's all gibberish to him. So you can't have Maul be the bad guy. Like, you can have him be there in the background, but you can never have them be in the same room together or witness each other or anything like that. You can have him be in the background and have the Crimson Dawn be a bad guy, this overarching organization trying to fuck with Han, sure. But I feel like they've put him in this, but not directly to set up for Solo 2. They could use him in elsewhere. But they're trying to do like more Marvel-esque, you know, introduce characters in this film so they can do something else over here, blah, 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 blah. Do it over here, do this, do this. But if they're going both directions, they're going to pull it off so much more fluently than Marvel does. If they're going to have, well, this thing from the movie, the comic, the game, blah, 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 back and forth. And the number one thing that I get that excites me deep down in my heart hole from all of this is, as far as I'm concerned, even though Darth Maul started as a live action character, of course, in The Phantom Menace, he is, as far as I'm concerned, a animated series character that's been brought into live action.
Oh, no, I know where this is going.
So my chances of getting Ahsoka, my chances of getting Ahsoka have increased to 2%.
To 2%.
just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
Yeah, there's more of a chance.
There is, because you know what I mean, though. Like, even though he was live action, this is pretty much an animated series character.
Or is this building up to the Obi-Wan movie?
Well, here's the thing. So I had one friend of the show, Buddy Watson, message me Friday morning, and the first message I got was, "So a question about Solo," and I replied something along the lines of, "Yes." what is it? And he had like it was like, "Is the Crimson Dawn a new thing?" Blah 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 blah. And then he said a similar thing, like, "Are they building this towards? Do you reckon they're building this towards being a Obi-Wan fight that people have been asking for ages?" And I just copy pasted the link to the YouTube video from when Obi-Wan fights him in Rebels, and I'm like, "They've done that." And he said, "Well, if they've already done an anime show, do you reckon they'll just like reshoot it, do it again?"
No.
No. Because I feel like that counteracts what they're doing here.
Why can't they fight before that?
No, but the thing is, the way the Darth
That means
Maul...
Obi-Wan leaves the
That's
planet.
true.
Which
means
no.
that happened. But then also, Obi-Wan kind of has this pity for Maul in that Rebels, where he's almost like, oh my god, you're still fucking chasing me. Like, you literally...
Yeah, he holds him as he's dying and basically
Yeah.
shares a moment with him.
Yeah. He has this pity where he's like, you're still fucking chasing me since the Clone Wars. I can't believe it. I don't think that would have as much of an effect if, they have repeatedly clashed since then.
I know everyone wants to see Ewan McGregor fight Darth Maul again. I want to see Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan again. You're not going to see Ewan McGregor fight Darth Maul because it doesn't make sense. And the only way they could do it is if they reshot a scene that they've already done in an anime series. And I just do feel like that takes away from them setting up like the two-way street. If they're just going to reshoot stuff, they could reshoot it if they had another character there and it was like from a different angle from that character's side. But like the way that scene takes place, it's like that it ain't happening. It's
What
it's
if it's a
Obi-Wan
shot for shot adaptation?
of a literally 2-minute scene. You
Yeah.
know? Like it's the fight scene isn't even a fight scene that people want. Like when people say they want the fight, they want like a long, like Phantom Menace, like very long, like back forth, flippy fight. When the fight that they got when they actually did it was them staring at each other for 30 seconds and then Obi-Wan just dead, gone.
Yeah.
It's not the fight that everyone wants. And even when they aired the episode on Rebels, I was so happy. I thought it made really like so much sense for the whole, like, because Star Wars lore is rooted in like samurai fighting, and like them staring each other down is them like predicting how each other will move because they've fought so many times. So it's like they fought so many times it just comes down to one chess move instead of 50 chess moves. And I loved it, but even after the Rebels episode, people were online just like, this is pit, like that's all they did. Like after the big build up, like they didn't have this epic fight. So even if they did it shot for shot, people would fucking hate it.
be angry.
People would be so angry. So it's just like, don't even bother touching it. Don't even make that a thing. But the idea of having Maul come in as the head of this evil criminal organization is really cool. Makes a lot of sense for that character. And Maul is a really, really great character that was absolutely fucking terrible in the Phantom Menace and wasted and was shit and was basically like, was it like another throwaway Captain Phasma or fucking mental blanking Boba Fett, was another Boba Fett, Phantom Menace was like a cool looking character that had nothing to him that they brought back an animated series and turned into a really cool, interesting character with drive and character and family and backstory and all this sort of thing. The only problem and question I have is if they bring him back is, who do you have him fight? Like...
Yeah, it's weird.
Darth Vader.
Obi-Wan's in such a weird spot because if they do have it, okay, what kind of setting is it? B, if he shows up somewhere and is using his lightsaber and shit, how have like the Emperor and Darth Vader not heard of it yet? Like how
it'd be the same as how they explain it in Star Wars Rebels. Like they literally have Vader fight like Kanan and Ezra using lightsabers, and they get away with it for a while. But for a lot of time up until that point, it was like they're like, oh, they're nobody. It's just like whatever, fucking. We'll kill him eventually. It's not a big deal. You could have Vader come into it. That could be like. There's no reason that couldn't be a thing that happens, and that would make sense.
Well, it makes sense because the Empire's like the government, and they're a criminal organization.
Yeah. Also, Palpatine hates Maul. Palpatine, like when he found out that Maul was back alive, there's an episode in Clone Wars where he kills Maul's brother, and then he tortures Maul for ages to get like information out of him, basically just to fuck with him, because of course the whole rule of two. So it's like, oh, my old apprentice is back. Well, that's not going to go. We're going to go kill him. So if Palpatine found out Maul was alive again, it would make sense if he was like, hey, Darth Vader, do you want to go handle that? And they could have a whole scene where they could set up along that line to have him crash land on the planet he's stuck in. Like it would make sense. You could play along those lines, but you don't want to get to that too fast, and you do want him to have back and forth. Like you need someone to have some sort of fight or something with him. It's just like, how do you get that?
Like you've got to have That's the thing. That's why when I had it mentioned that Darth Maul's in the movie, I was like, okay, but he's not going to be physically there because there's nobody like there's nobody to oppose him. Han isn't the character to oppose him. They're not just unless they give him another scene like they gave Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One. I'm like, I don't want to see that again.
My one idea from what information we have, and I think by this point we can basically they're planning ahead for the Star Wars movies. Is they're so far ahead at this stage that like you can't even really keep up. You know, like they've got this in play and they know where they're going with it, and I trust them to do whatever they need to with it. But if we're going to talk about that Jabba the Hutt, if we're going to talk about if we're going to talk about the fucking Boba Fett movie real quick with the James Mangold being popped in as the director, Mangold being popped in as director real quick, you could have Boba be an adversary to Maul for some point, you know?
Yeah.
Not he's someone who could fight Maul. I can picture a Darth Maul versus Boba fight scene with him jetpacking across the room and you know Maul like flying through the air like hitting away bolts, blah 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 blah. That is a fight you could have, and I could believe it. You obviously can't have either win.
Yeah.
Really, it's
stalemate.
Yeah, you could have a stalemate fight, and you could have Boba be a bit of annoyance, and it would make sense for a Boba Fett movie where he could get entangled with this Crimson Dawn as a problem, or maybe the Hutts don't like Crimson Dawn. You know, like maybe they find out something goes wrong with him. He's working for the Hutts, gets blah 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 sent down, pops into Maul. And this would all make sense if they're setting him up in this movie, but he's really going to be tying into the Boba movie. And that would play along really well, because instead of saving him for the Solo 2 movie, or you could even have him pop up again in Solo 2 and there's Boba Fett, you know, like that long game. But Boba is currently, as of the movies we know coming out, one character where I'm like, yeah, you could have him pop into Maul. Like, there's no reason for that character to have no reason not to meet someone using a lightsaber. And he could actually put up a fight against that. So, maybe. Not against it. Not against it at all. Yeah. Alright, any other final thoughts on Maul before I move on to the last segment?
No, I'm good. I think we've covered it. You know, what more can you say?
It was a good moment.
It was a good moment. Yes,
I thought it was going to be the Emperor for a second there.
The
black robes and stuff. I'm like, oh.
They played the audience because, of course, they start from behind with the thing. But as soon as I heard the voice, I knew straight away.
Saw the robot feet, and I was like,
well, you also got told it was Maul.
I also knew, but saw the robot feet, and it kind of gave it away.
Yeah, no, I was like, as soon as I heard the wall, I was like, Sam Witwer. I know that voice. All right, so let's move on to the last thing. I just want to cover some of the random Easter egg type stuff and cool things that were chucked along in this movie that mention stuff like that. So, as mentioned before, we get no Jabba in this movie, but we do get mention of the Hutt Cartel, and of course, that's where Han is heading towards the end of this movie to go meet up with Jabba to do a mission or whatever it's like. And it's interesting, the line from the trailer, if you go rewatch the original trailer, because they have that line from Beckett saying, putting together a team, which is like way towards the end of the movie, but they cut it together in the original trailer, like that's early in the movie, and that's going to set up towards they're putting together a team to go do the train heist, to do this, but it's like just one of them fucking with the us as the audience thing, which is really good, I thought. We get a mention of Bosk, the lizard bounty hunter, of course, from episode 5. He's mentioned in this as someone they should hire instead of Han and Chewie, which was a cool little line. Another bounty hunter that is mentioned is Aura Singh, who is a character that's slightly seen in the Phantom Menace and is in the Clone Wars a whole bunch, has a back and forth, and even teams up with a bunch of different characters, including Cad Bane and Boba Fett, and a bunch of different missions. She teams up with Boba Fett in the Clone Wars when Boba Fett tries to kill Mace Windu, because they do a whole story arc where he wants to actually get revenge and kill the person who killed his father. And that's a whole thing where I'm like, Boba Fett origin story movie. They literally told his origin story in the Clone Wars, but that is a different subject. But she's mentioned, Tobias Beckett mentions that he killed her. Something along the lines of, I pushed her. And he says, he killed her. And he says, I think it was gravity that killed her in the long run, or something like that, which was the fall that killed her, which was cool. Qi'ra is trained in Terraskazi, or however the fuck you say it, which is an old PS1 game, but really obscure PS1 game, but was brought up last year when they did The Last Jedi, because they brought it up then and said that's what the Praetorian Guards used when they fought, and Snoke's thing, which if you go look at that again, like the object she picks up, and of course the what's his fuck has, like the little It's not like a lightsaber, but it's got like some sort
dagger
of
things.
laser
It's got,
dagger type thing.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's like that's exactly what all the guards had in Last Jedi. And this once again is worth just noting as the cross-pollination of like stuff between movies, even though you're like, well, how can they set up stuff in episode 8 to do with the Han Solo movie that's ages before? It's like, well, the fighting style and the dice and whatever else. So it's nice that they do these back and forth things, help set up things. Warwick Davis is in this movie.
That was cool, I thought.
He is actually playing a character that he's played before. He is playing Weasel, who is seen in The Phantom Menace as the character next to Watto. When they're all screaming, and he bets on Anakin and that. So he bet on the wrong person, because that's how he ends up having to fight against Anakin later, because now he's part of a resistance trying to fight back against the Empire. So that worked out really well for you. But I thought that was cool to have him in it. I thought he was a completely different character, but in the visual dictionary, they say it's actually Weasel. So it's like, oh, might as well connect it. Like that's one of the characters he doesn't have a mask on for. Ethan's Nest, apparently early remnants of the Rebel Alliance, basically. And this
was that meant to be more important? Because they shot it in a way when she revealed herself that it felt like it was something important.
I
think it was supposed to be the reveal that it was a girl, B, like a kid, like a teenager.
It was a young person, not like an old person, or like someone
like a
looked
grizzled
more like a
pirate or
grizzled
anything.
person. Yeah, I think that was.
I also thought for a while it was the guys from the start of the movie.
I thought it was
wore
going
helmets
to
like
be
that,
Thandie Newton under there, or something like that, you know. But yeah, so this is another interesting thing that they've been doing in Star Wars recently, even with like the Rebel series and a bunch of other things, where they're basically saying that the Rebel Alliance wasn't one person getting together and standing upwards saying, hey, let's all go start together and like get together and like fight back against people. It was a bunch of these smaller groups all fighting off on their own, and then eventually they all kind of get together and form this one bigger thing.
I guess that makes sense with like the council.
Yeah, like how's other people? It's like even in Rebels, so like Kanan and Hera are off just doing what they do because they want to, because they're just like, we want to fight back against the Emperor, and then eventually they get like tied back in. They're like, meet Mon Mothma and all these people. It's like, oh, we're doing this over here. Do you want to come? Look, we've got this planet. Yavin 4. Come over here. There's other people. Maybe you might be interested. And then of course you've got like Saw Gerrera from Rogue One and like what he's doing, and that's the very extreme like fighting back, like he gets kicked out of the actual rebellion. That's how it ends up. So they're doing this really nice thing in Star Wars where they're showing the different sides of the rebellion and how different people go about it. On that note, there was one of the other characters when they pull off the mask, and this is not one that I've seen confirmed yet, because I went in town today to try and get a copy of the visual dictionary myself so I could check, but I couldn't find it anywhere yet. But one of the characters takes off their hood and it appears to be Two Tubes, which is a character from Rogue One, like one of Saw Gerrera's.
Yes, yeah, no, I thought that, because I saw the character and I thought the face looked really familiar. So, okay, cool. I'm not going mad.
No, that's who I'm 99% sure it is, but I would much prefer to get my hands on the visual dictionary just to have that 100% confirmed that's who that character is. Mm-hmm. But it would line up time-wise, because this is... So we see him in Rogue One where he's working for Saw, like his second-hand man, but this movie's taking place about 10 years before Rogue One, so it would make sense if he's working for Ethan's Nest for X amount of years at this point, and then maybe Saw Gerrera, they can have Forrest Whitaker come back and get involved with Ethan's Nest, and then he goes off and keeps with Saw after that, or Ethan's Nest evolves and becomes part of Saw Gerrera's group, or something along those lines. There's like really cool ways that you could take like sticking a character like that in there, not just as a random Easter egg. It's just kind of involves the rebellion in really interesting ways. And then one of the other things was that Beckett wears the same disguise that Lando wears in Return of the Jedi, which is apparently just a disguise that's on the thing. Like when they go to the mining planet.
Yes, yeah, no, I did. Yeah, no, the helmet. The
helmet and all that. That's that's what Lando wears, which must stay on the ship for the next 12, 15 years.
But there were other people in Jabba's palace wearing that, so
yeah, it's just a little thing. And I'm sure I've read online there's a bunch of other tie-ins. Like basically, whenever Lando's telling a story, they're all tie-ins to a bunch of Legends Lando books that I've never read. Apparently, there's a bunch of stuff in Dryden's room that are references to like old Legends Han Solo books that I'm not aware of, but apparently people are really enjoying it, finding it really clever. Also in that room is like the statue from Indiana Jones, the first one, like that he picks off and swipes. That's like
is
in
there
there as a
really?
background,
That's really...
yeah. So there's like
That's
a
cool.
bunch of different really cool Easter eggs in the background there that are like cool like background Easter eggs. That's what I'm saying. Like this movie does these background Easter eggs, and like the Bosk reference and all these sorts of things are done a lot better and make more sense. Like the two tubes thing. I enjoyed the Easter eggs and the pickups in this movie, and I'm looking forward to watching it again to see what else I can pick up. Does anyone have any final thoughts on Solo, a Star Wars story, and anything that they would like to see out of the sequel going forth?
Take us away, Ashley.
I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said. I think we've said it all. Things that were said have been totally said.
Totally said. Very good.
No,
Kieran?
we've got it covered. No, as the movie's really enjoyable. I hope they continue. I hope they craft some new stories now that they have got rid of all the stuff we knew of Han. That they start crafting new stories and building new lore for him and Chewie's adventures.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to have another one of these just really fun, like not mediocre, but just like a cool average-ish. Like I don't know what I'd rate this. Like I'd probably just give it a 7, and I don't think that's bad. It's just like on a Star Wars scale, it's higher than a 7 to me. But like as a movie, it's just a 7. But it's just a really enjoyable, fun time at the theater. You know, it's just you can chuck it on, have a great time with it. And I don't think every Star Wars movie needs to be better than that. With that said, if they're going to do all these Star Wars stories as like connected characters, like if they're all going to be like Han Solo, Boba Fett, like insert Obi-Wan, like all characters that we already know, I'm going to get sick of that if they're all going to be characters that we already know and blah, blah, blah over time. I need that to be melded in when we get forward and we're getting the new series from like Danny Benoff Wise or whatever the name is, like the Game of Thrones dudes are doing that series.
Thrones,
we're getting the John Favreau series,
Ryan Johnson's new
Ryan
trilogy.
Johnson's trilogy. So I feel like when we get to a stage when we're getting new stories intermixed with these stories telling us characters that we already know, I'll feel a lot better about it. But
I think we need the Star Wars equivalent of Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'd love that.
Not like the the same
crazy
story.
and
But what I
wacky.
mean is that with the Marvel effect, it was all right. This Marvel thing's working. Let's throw Guardians of the Galaxy in there and see if that sticks, and that'll tell us if we can start doing stranger titles or just more out there. And it worked. So they need to do something like that. That might be a bit of a risk to try and show if that's what audiences will pick up and watch.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting going forward because we are approaching. Because for so long we kind of knew what was coming. Because when they came out the gate, they're like, episode 7, 8, 9, Han Solo, Boba Fett movie was rumored for ages and like had different people working on it. Rogue One, like we just had outlined of these movies for ages, and we're just like coming up to the finish line. You know, episode 9's next year. Boba Fett apparently is officially kind of going ahead now as the final of these 3 stories that we had going, and then after that we've got all these TV series and these Ryan Johnson trilogy, which I think are all supposed to be new stories, like way away from anything we know and not connected. And if they want to keep doing these Star Wars stories as origin stories or spin-off stories to characters we know, after watching this Han Solo movie, I'm fine with that because I think they're in capable hands. And Lucasfilm came in, and don't forget this movie, which we talked about, had such a troubled behind the scenes, and it's fine. Like I don't think you can tell.
Yep.
Like
No, you
compare
can't
this
tell.
to Justice League, you know?
Yeah.
Justice League's so noticeable that had like fucking hands all over it and fixed at the last second, and it's just all kinds of messed up. This movie is just it's like it was just meant to be from the start. Ron Howard's movie. It's fine. It had no problems. It didn't have any wonky parts to it. I'm quite happy with it. No issues. So, Han Solo. It's great. Thank you for watching the YouTube or Twitch video if you're either watching either of these for our review discussion / Alderaan Explosion finale. If you're listening to this as the audio for Alderaan Explosion as the finale one, I'm pretty sure at this stage, since we came back for a second season, we'll probably just come back every time and use this. We'll see you next year as the build up to episode 9 comes along. That'll be really great. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, join the
notification
squad.
I'll see you there. Leave a yeet in the comments.
Thank you. If you're watching on Twitch VODs or along live right now, don't forget to hit the follow button, whichever direction that is. I'm not really 100% sure. And if you're listening on an audio version, go to iTunes, rate us 5 stars. There's no really... They need to add a feature on like podcast players that you can just like or something. You know, there's no like real way to go about it.
Get on that Pocket Cast.
Get on that Pocket Cast. And if you've joined us for all 3 episodes of Alderaan Explosion this year, thank you. It's been a lot of fun. Going to be really looking forward to coming back next year as we build up to episode 9. I'm sure that's going to be...
Can I pitch my sequel titles?
Really exciting. Go for it before you end up. Pitch the sequel titles, then I'm ending the show.
Han and Chewbacca, a solo Star Wars movie.
No.
Solo, another Star Wars movie.
No.
And Duo, a Star Wars movie.
No.
We've got winners here. We have winners.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. May the force be with you. Always. Bye-bye.